The device was submitted to the Portland Police Department on March 19, 2024, by a landlord cleaning out a vacant apartment. The tenant's lease had ended on March 15th. The tenant did not collect their belongings. The phone was found on the kitchen counter. Battery at 18%. Screen cracked in the upper right corner. No case. The call log shows 47 outgoing calls to a contact labeled Brian Work between 2:17 a.m. and 4:09 a.m. on March 3, 2024. All calls went unanswered. No voicemails were left. Call duration for each attempt is listed as 0 seconds. The phone did not stop ringing. Carrier records confirm all 47 calls were placed. None were connected. The contact, Brian Work, belonged to the device owner's co-worker. They worked together at a data center in Hillsboro, Oregon. The co-worker confirmed his phone number and the contact was correct. He stated he did not receive any calls on March 3rd. His phone log supports this. No missed calls, no blocked calls, no record of incoming attempts. The device owner's shift ended at midnight on March 2nd. Security footage shows them leaving the facility at 12:14 a.m. They walked to their car. They sat in the driver's seat for 11 minutes without starting the engine. At 12:25 a.m., the interior light turned on. The owner appeared to be looking at their phone. At 12:31 a.m., the light turned off. The car started. The owner left the parking lot at 12:33 a.m. The drive from the facility to the owner's apartment is approximately 22 minutes. Traffic cameras captured the vehicle on Highway 26 at 12:41 a.m. The vehicle was traveling at normal speed. No erratic driving observed. The vehicle exited at Sylvan. The last confirmed sighting was at 12:52 a.m. near the intersection of Barnes Road and Miller. The apartment is 4 minutes from that location. The device's GPS log shows the owner arrived home at 12:58 a.m. The device remained stationary until 2:17 a.m. At that time, the first call was placed. Between 12:58 a.m. and 2:17 a.m., the device's activity log shows the following. At 1:03 a.m., the owner opened a messaging app. No message was sent. The app was closed after 14 seconds. At 1:19 a.m., the owner opened the same messaging app. A message was typed. The message read, "Are you awake?" The message was not sent. The app remained open for 6 minutes. At 1:25 a.m., the message was deleted. The app was closed. At 1:34 a.m., the device's browser was opened. The search query was, "What does it mean when someone watches you sleep?" 3 results were clicked. The first was an article about sleep paralysis. The owner spent 2 minutes on the page. The second was a forum discussion about anxiety and hypervigilance. The owner spent 47 seconds on the page. The third result was a web page that no longer exists. The URL was archived. The archived version shows a blank page, no text, no images. The page title was, "You are not alone in the room." The owner closed the browser at 1:41 a.m. At 1:52 a.m., the owner searched, "How to tell if your apartment has carbon monoxide." The owner clicked 2 results. Both were informational pages about CO detectors. The owner's lease agreement indicates the apartment was equipped with a working carbon monoxide detector. The landlord confirmed this. The detector's battery was replaced in January 2024. No alerts were triggered on March 3rd. At 2:04 a.m., the owner opened their phone's camera app. No photos were taken. The app remained open for 8 minutes. The front-facing camera was not used. The rear camera was active. The camera roll shows no new images or videos from this session. The app's cache data indicates the camera was pointed toward the bedroom doorway. No recording was saved. At 2:12 a.m., the camera app was closed. At 2:17 a.m., the first call was placed to Brian Work. The call rang 4 times. Then it disconnected. This is standard for calls that go to voicemail. The owner did not leave a message. 6 seconds later, a second call was placed. 4 rings. Disconnected. No message. The pattern continued. By 2:31 a.m., the owner had called 14 times. The intervals between calls ranged from 4 to 19 seconds. At 2:31 a.m., the interval increased. The 15th call was placed 38 seconds after the 14th. At 2:33 a.m., the 16th call was placed. The interval was 1 minute and 42 seconds. At 2:35 a.m., the device's microphone activated. The owner used the voice-to-text feature to compose a message. The transcription reads, "Brian, I need you to pick up, please. I'm not joking. Please pick up." The message was sent at 2:35 a.m. to Brian Work via SMS. The message was delivered. It was not read until 7:48 a.m. At 2:36 a.m., the 17th call was placed. 4 rings. Disconnected. No message. At 2:39 a.m., another voice-to-text message was composed. The transcription reads, "Something is in the apartment. I can hear it moving. Please, Brian." The message was sent. It was delivered. Read receipt shows 7:48 a.m. At 2:40 a.m., the 18th call was placed. At 2:43 a.m., the owner sent a third message. This one was typed manually. It reads, "I locked the bedroom door. I don't know what to do. Why aren't you answering?" The message was delivered. Read at 7:48 a.m. At 2:44 a.m., the 19th call was placed. The coworker, Brian, stated he was asleep during this time. His phone was on silent mode, as it was every night. He stated he always silenced his phone before bed. He confirmed this was his routine. He stated he did not hear the calls. He stated he did not wake up until 7:30 a.m. He saw the messages and missed calls when he checked his phone at 7:48 a.m. He immediately tried to call back. The call went to voicemail. He sent a message asking if everything was okay. The message was delivered but never read. At 2:47 a.m., the owner called a second contact. The contact was labeled Mom's Cell. The call rang twice, then was answered. The call lasted 9 seconds. No audio was recorded. The owner's mother stated she did answer the phone. She stated she said hello 3 times. She heard nothing. She assumed it was a pocket dial. She hung up. She did not call back. She stated her child had pocket dialed her before. At 2:48 a.m., the owner called Brian Work again. This was the 21st attempt. At 2:51 a.m., the owner opened the camera app again. This session lasted 3 minutes. No photos or videos were saved. The cache indicates the camera was pointed at the bedroom door. The door was closed. Metadata from the session shows the device's light sensor detected low ambient light. The room was dark. The camera's night mode activated automatically. At 2:54 a.m., the camera app was closed. At 2:55 a.m., the 23rd call was placed to Brian Work. At 3:01 a.m., the owner sent another message to Brian. The message reads, "I'm calling the police." The message was delivered. It was read at 7:48 a.m. No call to 911 was placed. At 3:02 a.m., the 25th call was placed to Brian Work. At 3:08 a.m., the device's voice assistant was activated. The query was, "Call 911." The assistant's log shows the request was processed. The assistant replied, "Calling emergency services." No call was connected. The phone's system log indicates a software error occurred. The error code corresponds to a failed network request. The owner's carrier confirmed network service was functioning normally in that area at that time. The error could not be explained. At 3:09 a.m., the owner manually dialed 911. The call was connected. The call lasted 6 seconds. The 911 dispatcher's report states, "Caller did not speak. No background noise detected. Line remained open for 6 seconds. Caller disconnected." The dispatcher attempted to call back. The call went to voicemail. A second callback attempt was made 3 minutes later. No answer. Protocol requires officers to be dispatched to the location. 2 officers arrived at the apartment at 3:34 a.m. The officers knocked on the apartment door. No response. The officers knocked again. They announced themselves. No response. The officers could see a light on inside through the window. They heard no movement. They heard no voices. After 4 minutes, the landlord was contacted. The landlord arrived at 3:52 a.m. with a key. The officers entered the apartment at 3:54 a.m. The apartment was empty. The bedroom door was closed. The officers opened it. The bedroom was empty. The phone was not in the bedroom. The bed appeared slept in. The sheets were disturbed. One pillow was on the floor. The bedroom window was closed and locked from the inside. The phone was found in the kitchen. It was on the counter next to the sink. The screen was on. The call log was open. The most recent call was time-stamped 3:51 a.m. This was the 47th call to Brian Work. The officers checked the bathroom. Empty. They checked the closets. Empty. They checked the balcony. The sliding door was locked from the inside. No one was on the balcony. The apartment had no other exits. The officer's report states, no signs of forced entry, no signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play, apartment secure, resident not located. A wellness check was filed. Attempts to contact the device owner were made over the following days. Calls went to voicemail. Messages were not read. The owner's employer stated they did not report for their shift on March 3rd. They did not call in sick. They did not respond to texts from management. Their final paycheck was mailed to the apartment address. It was never cashed. The owner's mother filed a missing person report on March 6th. She stated her child had not contacted her since the 9-second call on March 3rd. She stated this was unusual. She stated they spoke at least twice a week. She stated her child seemed fine the last time they spoke, which was on March 1st. The device's activity log shows sporadic usage after 3:51 a.m. on March 3rd. At 4:09 a.m., the phone's alarm was set for 6:30 a.m. The alarm was not dismissed when it went off. It repeated 3 times at 9-minute intervals as programmed. At 6:48 a.m., the alarm was turned off. At 7:02 a.m., the device's location services were disabled manually. At 7:15 a.m., the browser was opened. The search query was, how to disappear completely. 4 results were clicked. The browsing session lasted 11 minutes. No bookmarks were made. The history was not cleared. At 8:33 a.m., a message was sent to Brian Work. The message reads, I'm sorry. It was delivered. It was read at 8:40 a.m. Brian replied, sorry for what? Where are you? Are you okay? The message was delivered. It was never read. At 9:14 a.m., the device's camera app was opened. A single photo was taken. The photo shows a ceiling, white paint, a light fixture. No other details are visible. The metadata shows the photo was taken inside a structure. The GPS coordinates embedded in the photo's EXEF data place the device at the same apartment. The timestamp is confirmed as 9:14 a.m. on March 3rd. The photo was not shared. It was not deleted. At 9:20 a.m., the device was powered off. The device was powered back on at 11:47 a.m. on March 3rd. No activity occurred for 31 minutes. At 12:18 p.m., the phone's settings were accessed. The screen lock was disabled. The password was removed. At 12:22 p.m., the device was placed in airplane mode. At 12:23 p.m., airplane mode was turned off. At 12:23 p.m., the device was powered off again. The next recorded activity was on March 8th at 3:16 a.m. The device powered on automatically. No user input was logged. The battery was at 4%. The device displayed the lock screen for 2 minutes, then powered off due to low battery. The device was not charged. On March 15th, the landlord entered the apartment to begin cleaning after the lease expired. The apartment was largely as the officers had found it. The bed was still unmade. Dishes were in the sink. Mail had accumulated by the door. The landlord stated nothing appeared to have been moved since March 3rd. The landlord found the phone on the kitchen counter. It was not plugged in. The battery was dead. The phone was submitted to police on March 19th. It was charged and examined. The call log, messages, and browsing history were extracted. No additional messages had been sent or received after March 3rd. No calls had been made or received. The device had not connected to any Wi-Fi networks. The GPS showed no location changes after 7:02 a.m. on March 3rd, when location services were disabled. The photo taken at 9:14 a.m. was analyzed. The ceiling in the photo matches the ceiling in the owner's apartment bedroom. The light fixture is identical. The angle of the photo suggests the device was lying flat on the bed, camera facing upward. No reflection or shadow of the person holding the phone is visible. The photo's dimensions and quality are consistent with the device's camera specifications. The photo was not edited. No filtering was applied. At 2:19 a.m. on March 3rd, 2 minutes after the first call to Brian, a neighbor in the adjacent apartment reported hearing a phone ringing. The neighbor's statement was taken on March 7th during a canvassing effort. The neighbor stated the ringing was loud. The neighbor stated it sounded like it was coming from the shared wall. The neighbor stated the ringing stopped and started repeatedly for over an hour. The neighbor did not investigate. The neighbor stated they put in earplugs and went back to sleep. The neighbor was asked if they heard anything else. The neighbor stated they heard a thud at approximately 3 a.m. The neighbor described it as something heavy hitting the floor. The neighbor stated they heard nothing after that. The neighbor did not check on their neighbor. The neighbor stated they did not want to bother them in the middle of the night. The device's accelerometer data was reviewed. At 3:01 a.m., the device registered a sudden drop. The data indicates the device fell approximately 4 feet. The impact was consistent with being dropped from counter height. The device landed on a hard surface. The screen cracked at this time. The device continued to function normally. At 3:02 a.m., the device was picked up. The accelerometer shows motion consistent with someone lifting the device and placing it back on the counter. This occurred 8 seconds before the 25th call to Brian was placed. Brian was asked what he would have done if he had answered the calls. He stated he would have told his coworker to call the police. He stated he would have stayed on the line with them. He stated he would have driven to their apartment if they needed him too. He stated he felt terrible that he didn't wake up. He stated his phone has not been on silent mode since March 3rd. He stated he checks his phone multiple times during the night now. Brian was asked if his coworker had ever called him in the middle of the night before. He stated no. He stated they were friendly at work but not close friends outside of it. He stated he was surprised to see so many calls from them. He stated he couldn't understand why they didn't call 911 instead. The owner's mother stated her child had lived alone for 3 years. She stated they had never mentioned feeling unsafe in the apartment. She stated they had never mentioned hearing strange noises. She stated they were generally a private person. She stated they did not share much about their day-to-day life. She stated the last time they spoke, her child seemed tired, but otherwise normal. The mother was asked about the 9-second call at 2:47 a.m. She stated she regretted hanging up. She stated she should have called back. She stated she didn't think anything was wrong. She stated if she had known, she would have driven there immediately. She stated she lived 40 minutes away. She stated she could have been there by 3:30 a.m. The mother's phone records show she did not attempt to call back until March 6th after filing the missing person report. The call went to voicemail. She left a message asking her child to call her back. She stated she was worried. The voicemail was never retrieved. The apartment building's security camera system was reviewed. The building had 3 cameras, one at the front entrance, one at the rear entrance, one in the parking garage. None of the cameras covered the interior hallways or individual apartment doors. The front entrance camera showed the owner entering the building at 1:02 a.m. on March 3rd. They were alone. They walked directly to the elevator. The camera's angle did not capture the elevator interior. No other footage of the owner was recorded that night. The cameras show no one entering or leaving the building between 1:02 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. The rear entrance camera showed no activity. The parking garage camera showed the owner's vehicle in its assigned space. The vehicle did not move. Building access logs were reviewed. The owner's key fob was used to enter the front door at 1:01 a.m. The fob was not used again. No other key fobs were used to access the building between midnight and 6 a.m. except for one resident returning home at 4:42 a.m. That resident lived on the first floor. They did not see or hear anything unusual. The building has 4 floors. The owner's apartment was on the 3rd floor. There are 8 units per floor. 6 other units on the 3rd floor were occupied on March 3rd. 5 of those residents were interviewed. None reported hearing or seeing anything unusual. The 6th resident was traveling and not home. The apartment directly below the owner's unit was occupied by a graduate student. The student stated they were awake until approximately 2 a.m. working on a paper. They stated they heard footsteps above them, which was normal. They stated the footsteps stopped around 1:30 a.m. They stated they heard nothing else. They stated the building was generally quiet at night. The apartment directly above the owner's unit was unoccupied. The tenant had moved out in February. The unit had not been re-rented yet. The landlord confirmed this. The landlord stated no one had access to that unit. The landlord stated the locks had not been changed since the previous tenant left. The previous tenant returned their keys. The landlord stated no maintenance had been scheduled for that unit during the first week of March. Officers checked the vacant unit above the owner's apartment on March 4th. The door was locked. The landlord opened it. The unit was empty. No furniture, no personal belongings, no signs that anyone had been inside recently. A layer of dust was visible on the floors and counters. No footprints were found in the dust. The owner's vehicle was searched on March 9th with the mother's permission. Nothing unusual was found. Registration and insurance were current. No signs of damage. The interior was clean. A work badge was found in the center console. The badge belonged to the owner. It was last used to access the data center at 12:14 a.m. on March 3rd when they left their shift. The owner's work computer was examined. The last login was at 11:47 p.m. on March 2nd. The logout was recorded at 12:09 a.m. on March 3rd. The session was routine. No unusual activity. No personal emails sent. No suspicious browsing. The owner had not accessed company resources remotely since then. Co-workers were interviewed. All stated the owner was quiet but competent. No one reported any conflicts. No one reported concerning behavior. One co-worker mentioned the owner had seemed distracted during their last shift. When asked to elaborate, the co-worker stated the owner kept checking their phone. The co-worker stated this was unusual. The owner typically left their phone in their locker during shifts. The data center's security footage from March 2nd was reviewed. The owner is seen checking their phone 4 times during their shift. Each time, they looked at the screen for several seconds, then put the phone away. No texts were sent. No calls were made during work hours. The phone records confirm this. At 9:47 p.m. on March 2nd, approximately 2 hours before the end of their shift, the owner is seen standing in front of a server rack. They are not moving. They appear to be staring at the rack. This continues for 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Another co-worker walks past. The owner does not acknowledge them. At 9:50 p.m., the owner resumes their work. The co-worker who walked past was interviewed. They stated they did not remember this specific incident. They stated the owner was often focused on their work. They stated standing still and staring at equipment was not unusual when troubleshooting issues. The owner's work log shows no issues were reported with that particular server rack on March 2nd. At 11:28 p.m., the owner is seen in the break room. They are alone. They sit at a table. They take out their phone. They look at the screen for 41 seconds. They put the phone face down on the table. They do not eat or drink anything. They sit motionless for 3 minutes. At 11:31 p.m., they pick up their phone. They look at it again for 18 seconds. They stand up and leave the break room. The phone records show no notifications were received during this time. No calls, no texts, no app alerts. The screen time log shows the phone was unlocked at 11:28 p.m. for 59 seconds. No apps were opened during this time. The lock screen was displayed. The owner's social media accounts were examined with the mother's permission. The owner had profiles on 2 platforms. Both accounts showed minimal activity. The last post on either account was from January 14, 2024. It was a shared article about network security. No personal caption. 3 likes. No comments. The owner had sent no direct messages on either platform since February 18th. That message was to a former classmate. The message read, "Hey, how have you been?" The classmate replied, "Good. You?" The owner did not respond. The owner's email accounts were examined. 3 accounts were found. A work email, a personal email, and an old account from college. The work email contained routine correspondence. The last sent email was on February 29th regarding a shift trade. The personal email showed mostly automated messages, receipts, newsletters, service notifications. The last personal email sent was on February 22nd to the apartment complex management. The email reported a dripping faucet. The issue was resolved on February 24th according to maintenance records. The college email account had not been accessed since 2021. The owner's bank account showed regular activity. Paychecks were deposited bi-weekly. Rent was paid automatically on the 1st of each month. Utility payments were automatic. Purchases were consistent with normal living expenses. Groceries, gas, subscription services. The last transaction was on March 2nd at 6:47 p.m. A purchase at a grocery store for $34.12. Security footage from the store shows the owner shopping alone. They appeared calm. They checked out without incident. They left the store at 6:58 p.m. The groceries were found in the apartment. They had been put away. Milk was in the refrigerator. Bread was in the cabinet. Produce was in the crisper drawer. None of the food had been prepared or eaten. The owner's phone contained 1,847 contacts. Most were automatic entries from email interactions or professional connections. 16 contacts had been called or texted in the previous 6 months. The most frequent contact was the owner's mother. 23 calls and 31 text conversations since September 2023. The second most frequent contact was Brian Work. 7 calls and 12 text conversations, all related to work schedules or shift coverage. The owner had no active dating app profiles. No recent matches or conversations were found on any platform. Browser history showed no visits to dating sites in the previous 3 months. At 1:38 a.m. on March 3rd, 12 minutes before the first call to Brian, the owner searched. Why do I feel like someone is watching me? The search results included articles about paranoia, anxiety disorders, and carbon monoxide poisoning. The owner clicked the article about carbon monoxide. They read it for 2 minutes and 7 seconds. They then searched carbon monoxide symptoms. They clicked 3 results. Total reading time was 4 minutes. At 2:11 a.m., 1 minute before opening the camera app, the owner searched how to record a sound on iPhone. They clicked the first result. It was a tutorial on using the Voice Memos app. They did not open the Voice Memos app. They opened the camera instead. The camera app does not record audio when taking photos. It records audio only when recording video. No videos were recorded on March 3rd. The owner's Voice Memos app contained 6 recordings. The most recent was from February 11th. It was 8 seconds long. The recording captured the owner's voice reading aloud a confirmation number for a prescription pickup. The 5 other recordings were similar. Confirmation numbers, appointment times, parking spot locations. None of the recordings captured background noise or other voices. The apartment was processed for evidence on March 12th. Fingerprints were found in expected locations: kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, living room. All prints matched the owner. No unidentified prints were found. DNA samples were collected from personal items. All samples matched the owner. No evidence of another person being in the apartment was discovered. Luminol testing was conducted. No blood evidence was found. No signs of cleanup were detected. The apartment showed no indication of violence. The bedroom door lock was examined. It was a standard privacy lock. It could be locked from the inside by turning a knob. It could be unlocked from the outside with a small tool or pin. The lock showed no signs of tampering. It was in the locked position when officers arrived. The door was not forced open. The landlord unlocked it with the apartment master key. The bedroom window was examined. It was a standard double-hung window. It was closed and locked from the inside. The lock was intact. No damage to the frame or glass. The window opened onto a small overhang above the building's entrance. The drop to the overhang was approximately 8 feet. From the overhang to the ground was another 12 feet. No ladder or rope was found. No scuff marks on the exterior wall. The balcony door was examined. It was a standard sliding glass door with a keyed lock. The lock was engaged. The door could not be opened from the outside when locked. The balcony had a waist-high railing. The drop from the balcony to the ground was approximately 30 feet. No ladder or climbing equipment was found. No marks on the balcony railing. The apartment's front door was the only practical exit. It showed no signs of forced entry. The deadbolt was not engaged when officers arrived. The handle lock was engaged. This was consistent with someone leaving and locking the handle, but not the deadbolt. The owner's keys were not found in the apartment. They were not found in the vehicle. They have not been recovered. A cadaver dog was brought to the apartment on March 14th. The dog showed no alerts. No indication of human remains or decomposition was detected. The owner's medical records were reviewed with the mother's permission. No history of mental illness was documented. No psychiatric medications prescribed. The last doctor's visit was in November 2023 for a routine physical. All results were normal. No concerns noted. The owner's prescription history showed only birth control and allergy medication. Both prescriptions were current. Both were refilled regularly. The pharmacy confirmed the owner picked up their last refill on February 28th. The toxicology analysis of items in the apartment found no unusual substances, no drugs, no poisons. The carbon monoxide detector in the apartment was tested. It was functioning correctly. No elevated CO levels were detected when officers first entered on March 3rd. Cell tower data was analyzed. The owner's phone last pinged a tower at 7:02 a.m. on March 3rd. This coincides with the time location services were disabled. No further pings were recorded. The tower is located 0.4 miles from the apartment building. The signal's strength and direction were consistent with the phone being in the apartment. On April 3rd, exactly 1 month after the incident, Brian received a notification on his phone. The notification was from a messaging app. The message was from the owner. The message read, "I'm sorry I kept calling." The message timestamp showed it was sent at 2:17 a.m. on April 3rd. Brian immediately tried to call back. The call went to voicemail. He reported the message to police within the hour. The message was analyzed. It was sent from the owner's phone number. The device's IME matched the phone found in the apartment. Carrier records confirmed the message was sent. The owner's phone was in police evidence storage at the time. It was powered off. It had been powered off since March 19th. The battery had been removed for preservation. The phone was examined. It remained powered off. The battery was still separated from the device. No physical explanation for the message transmission was found. The carrier could not explain the discrepancy. Brian provided screenshots of the message. Metadata analysis confirmed the screenshots were authentic and unaltered. The message appears in his chat history with the owner. It is timestamped 2:17 a.m. on April 3rd. It shows as delivered and read. No other messages have been received from the owner's number since April 3rd. Brian stated he checks his phone constantly. He stated he has not silenced his phone since March. He stated he will answer every call, no matter the time. He stated he wishes he had picked up. The case remains open. The owner has not been located. No body has been found. No financial activity has occurred. No contact has been made with family or friends. The phone remains in evidence. It has not been powered on since the message was received. On the night of May 14th, 2024, a resident in the same apartment building reported hearing a phone ringing. The resident lived on the 3rd floor. They stated the ringing was coming from the empty apartment. The apartment where the owner had lived. The new tenant had not yet moved in. The resident stated the ringing lasted for several minutes. They stated they knocked on the door. The ringing stopped. The resident reported this to building management. Management checked the apartment the following day. It was empty. No phone was found. The landlord confirmed the apartment had been cleaned and repainted after the owner's disappearance. All belongings left behind had been packed and stored. No phone was found during the cleaning. The landlord stated the apartment had remained vacant because prospective tenants were uncomfortable with the circumstances. The apartment was finally rented in June 2024. The new tenant has not reported any unusual occurrences. The owner's mother continues to call her child's phone number. The calls go to voicemail. She stated she leaves a message every time. She stated she asks her child to come home. She stated she tells them everything will be okay. She stated she just wants to know they're safe. The voicemail box became full in April 2024. The mother's calls no longer allow her to leave messages. She stated she still calls anyway. She stated she listens to the automated message that says the mailbox is full. She stated it makes her feel closer to her child. She stated she will always answer if they call back. This concludes the available information. The investigation is ongoing. The owner's whereabouts are unknown. The phone is preserved in evidence. No further messages have been sent from the device. No further calls have been received. If you have information regarding this case, you are instructed to contact the Portland Police Bureau. You are instructed to always answer your phone. You are instructed to never assume someone will be there the next time you call.